that to make sure I wasn't peeking. Okay. Where? Well, I'm trying to find this song.
Nah, you're good.
Nope, I'm not.
Oh no.
I'm failing miserably. Where the hell is this song on this playlist? I know it's on here. It can't be this far down, can it? Shouldn't it be? Oh my god, I can't find it. I know it's in this playlist. I saw it before. This isn't the song. But I might use it for something else. Where the freaking heck is this song at? Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually getting a little irritated.
Uh-oh.
It should be in this list. Am I just dumb?
Maybe it got deleted?
It shouldn't have. I haven't deleted anything off this, and there's nothing showing any removed songs.
Oh. Yeah, I was about to say I'm talking about like the removed on YouTube, but that's different. Oh boy.
Shoot, I might have accidentally left it on the other playlist. Which means the fact that I have to like dig through it, and I don't really feel like doing that right now. Well, for the moment, let me play a song that's supposed to play for the Ironhide clan.
Hell yeah.
Just cause. Well, I search for a different song real quick in this playlist. Finally found it. Okay. Freaking Christ. I didn't realize it was so far down on the freaking playlist. I kept accidentally skipping over it because it was in between two songs that I didn't think it was going to be in between. So, do you remember what you left up on?
I was at the Ice Lady's castle kingdom. She questioned me on who or what I was, what my purpose, like what am I doing around here. She thought it was a treasure.
Oh, she knows what you are.
Oh, well, she thought I was a treasure hunter for a moment, and then became scary, and then quickly became not scary again. Then she went to go fight the dragon thing. I explored for a little bit. She found me again, and said some stuff that she's protecting the area, protecting and like preserving the area because of her past husband, and now I'm her little jester.
Yep, sort of.
Sort of.
The only thing that is different from all that is the fact that you are actually not in a castle. You are just in a jail.
Oh, in a jail. Okay.
Yeah. You are not in any sort of castle prison or anything like that. You are just in a jail.
Got it. Fun. Oh yeah, it was like a barracks type thing, and I was like at the bottom where the jail was. Okay.
Why is this not typing? Oh, God.
Uh-oh.
Just a second. I think I had this happen before.
Ah.
End task. Alright, let's try reopening this from fresh. There we go. I'm forgetting names of stuff. There we go. This is the song that was supposed to be playing. Oh god. I was trying to note this down on this so that way I'd be more easier to relate this info, but I can't find the last name, so let me look up the last name real quick. Okay, good enough for that. Oh. Quick question for your character, Jess.
Hello.
Do you remember how you got your name?
I thought it was given to me by the orphanage, correct?
Okay, so that is what was what I told you.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember that, if that was the case or not.
Who knows? I could have another name somewhere.
You do. No, I'm joking.
I could.
I mean, if you decide to have another name, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I could eventually just start being like, my name is John to like strangers. I don't know why, but the song is giving me huge, like, Blue Rescue Team vibes.
Hmm. should. There we go. Okay. Jeez. That took a minute, considering I just wanted to make sure that I had that down so that way it'd be easier for me to find.
That's alright.
Alright. So, yeah, as I said before, yeah, it's correct. You are currently with the lady, an entity, in the northwest part of Austria. Well, actually, more towards the central northern area of Austria. In the capital city, named after the country in which you are currently in. All you know about her really is the fact that she has allowed you to call her by the name Yuki.
Yep.
And the fact that she apparently has protected this place and will continue doing so in the stead of her husband, who is now deceased as of a long, long time ago. When that was the case, you have no idea.
Yeah.
What you do know is the fact that she seems to have originally been a foreigner to these lands due to her clothing as well as her hair color. In this northern area, it's a lot more common for people to have light browns, blondes, even more silver-oriented hair colors, and hers is a pure black. That is not common at all. Not only that, but her clothing is clothing that you know comes from the Eastern continent. Yeah. It is not native to this continent at all.
Very
her name itself is also a name that definitely sounds foreign.
Yeah.
Yuki is a name that you've never actually heard anybody called on the mainland from where you currently live. She has some sort of mental issue, as you've seen. She seems to flop easily back and forth between being somewhat happy-go-lucky to very, very intense and rage-induced. Yeah. A thin line between happiness and madness, supposedly.
Yeah. Bipolar disorder, if I've ever saw one.
Yeah. She puts the polar in bipolar, that's for sure. you have seen the fact that she has some semblance of control over ice and snow, but you have no idea what manner of creature she is.
She also teleports.
Yes. You do know the fact that she finds the dragon not as an enemy so much as just a nuisance.
Like a pest.
And she also seems to be affiliated with the methods, though more for using them to her own ends rather than them actually being any sort of compatriots.
Mm-hmm.
There has been some offhanded information that she has said here and there, but another very interesting fact is the fact that the entire city, from what you've seen so far, does not have any snow in it. There's no snow whatsoever. In fact, it's slightly warm, almost like a cool fall weather from where you currently are in the city. You are more towards like the central part of the city. It's probably safe to assume that should you go towards like the edges of it, it'd probably be a lot more colder.
Mm-hmm.
But you've safely assumed that it's probably these strange heating cubes that are keeping the city like this.
Yeah.
Important information to keep note of is the fact that Yuki seems to not like people trying to take anything from the city, no matter the reasoning.
Yep.
So, since you've woken up, a full day has passed. You were brought to the castle, which is more towards the northern side, which, like I said before, you've noticed the fact that, while it's not, like, frigidly cold, it is, like, a lot colder than the previous temperatures. It's more closer to, like, mid to high 40s, rather than, like, lower 60s, maybe high 50s kind of temperature.
Got it.
It is a lot colder, but it's not like 20 to 40 degrees below freezing constantly, if not even lower.
Got it. Cold, but not that cold.
Yeah, it's not like frigidly cold to where you feel like as if you might literally get frostbite just by not wearing gloves.
Yeah. Though throughout my time there, like kind of staying wherever I stayed and traveling, anything new in my book if I glance in it? Well, as
Nope.
I glance in it? Cool.
You were pretty much brought to the castle and forced to somewhat like entertain Yuki. Interesting information to note though is the fact that there are other people in this city.
Oh.
Yes, in fact, in the castle there seems to be several people who act somewhat like servants. They seem to serve under Yuki, and from what you've gathered during the day in which you've been here is the fact that they serve this woman in return for being given protection and residence within the city.
Oh, okay.
She has been sort of
like actual people, not like
they are actual
things.
people,
okay.
like actual like humans, Goliaths. There are like a couple minotaurs. You do notice a stray dragonborn that seems to be here as well.
Interesting.
The dragonborn seems to be wearing these kind of like silver and blue sort of robes. You would recognize them. I'll go ahead and give this to you just due to you being a cleric. You would recognize them as regalia of clerics of Saloon.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And they're staying here willingly. Okay.
Yeah, and they are all here willingly. This Dragonborn, that is the cleric of Saloon, doesn't seem to really be so much of a servant to her, so much as more of like seemingly like almost like a friend in the short time that you've seen her and him interact as they talk. And he during the time in which he talked, which they talked for several hours, and you were kind of forced to just sit through there, not allowed to talk at all.
Yeah.
He talked a lot about her needing to find peace with herself.
Mm-hmm.
And that she has done what she can and that she should leave it to those still amongst the living. He seems to be insinuating the fact that she is indeed dead, or at least some form of undead.
Got it.
He doesn't seem put off by this.
Yeah.
During this time, which does strike you as a bit odd due to the fact that Saloon is an enemy of Shar. Yeah. Shar is the goddess of darkness, and someone who has powerful illusions and necromancy. Saloon is not a big fan of necromancy and the undead. And so the fact that he so peacefully interacts with this person who is supposedly an undead is actually a little bizarre from the little that you do know of Saloon.
Yeah. Definitely interesting.
After this full day has passed, you've had like your sleep and stuff like that, you do still feel a little tired. You were barely able to get an actual night's rest due to the fact that Yuki kept trying to get you to do like tell her tales and jokes and stuff like that, pretty much being an actual jester.
Yep.
Roll me a performance check for that to see how well that actually went.
That's fine with me. Sorry, I was looking up cleric stuff. Skills, performance. Not horrible. First roll of the day. No! Damn it!
Yeah, you're hurt, you're tired. You kind of have other things on your minds, especially since you have freaking witnessed a cleric of Saloon, somebody that you kind of wanted to talk to, haven't really had the opportunity to. And you're pretty much not being allowed to talk to anybody else. It's sort of irritated you. Not only that, but it seems like as if your tales, due to the goddess that you serve, Lyra, the goddess of mysteries and lies and deception, it becomes a little hard for you to tell actual adventures and stuff like that of what you have gone through. You do tell like some myths and things like that you've investigated in your spare time of trying to figure out some things.
Yeah.
Such as who Riven is, as well as information on Galdrin and information on how to bring back Peleus, as well as information on the contents in your book. But she seems not really too interested in that. You have a feeling that she was probably looking more for like adventurous kind of things, but you're not as much of the adventurous type. You're more like, oh, like I'll go do this because it has something in it for me.
Basically, yeah.
And so she kind of, like, after pretty much like almost a day of this off and on throughout the time in which you were there, during the times in which she wasn't interacting with other people.
Also, like, add stories of like our as I like start slowly seeing her get more and more bored of it, kind of start adding stories. Not saying exactly where I'm from, but like different missions we've been on.
Okay. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
What kind of mission do you tell her about?
Fuck.
You can completely make one up of your own will, like I've said before.
Ooh, that would be fun. We've been with there for 3 years. You know what, just because... Do you have gnolls in your campaign?
I
in
do.
Your area? To say maybe there was a raid of gnolls that we had to chase out or something, or helped chase out.
Okay.
Fun.
Okay, yeah. Give me a second performance check with this one.
Okay.
This time with advantage.
Okay, so I add the advantage button. I go to performance.
They're both 10s.
They're both 10s. Well, I am hurt. I'm trying my best. Seeing what she's wanting, though, now. And I'm, like, thinking in my head, just like, alright. You want actual adventure, I get it. Why don't we start with this?
You definitely start to pique her interest. Like, she kind of starts getting bored, and she's, like, about to start calling out to you whenever you're just like, well, you know what? I do remember that time. And you start to go into this tale about an emergency, the first emergency mission that you've ever been a part of, and the only one since then. There was a band of gnolls that was raiding from the woods to the north. Let me pull up this document that I totally have saved, or at least I should, and for some reason still don't. Where is it?
Is it the map? I can always send it to you.
I keep saving this map, and it for some reason never saves.
Oh no.
Let me.
Is it because you don't have the program?
No, it just like won't. Okay, there we go. It wouldn't move to the folder I was trying to put it in, so I just had to put it in a different folder. So off to the northeast of Avengarde, there is a large foresty area that is filled with swamps known as the Dark Wood. It's pretty much abandoned at this point in time due to one reason or another. But there are still a couple outlying villages. One such village was attacked by a band of gnolls. And this band of gnolls were actually quite large. They had strange diseased hyenas and war dogs amongst them, as well as powerful like gnoll commanders and stuff like that. There was a specific god that they seemed to worship, one that seemed to be insatiable. Roll me a history check to see if you can remember what the god was. I call it a god, but it's technically not a god. It's more of like a demon.
6.
You don't quite remember what the name of this supposed god of the gnolls are. What you do remember is the fact that it is technically a demon lord, the prince of gnolls, like pretty much like their chief worshipped being by gnolls. What you do remember is the fact that this being is known as the ruler of like ruin. This being seeks the collapse of civilization and butchers pretty much everything in its way. Due to this, a shaman of the gnolls had pretty much gathered these bands together, and these random ragtag bands of gnolls together under the banner of this demon lord, and had set out in order to start attacking nearby villages. For months, they actually were not found, and several of the villages within the Dark Wood were actually completely destroyed. Only the very southern one, which is known as Darkwood Village. Not a very, interesting name, but it's the only village remaining from around that forested area, from that entire thing. The Gnoll band was fought on the Goldwind Plains as they were marching towards Windrunner Village on the way towards one of the most important cities in the northern part of the Kingdom of Rodain, which is known as the city of Arswick. The Windrunner Village was almost destroyed in the aftermath. It has been recently rebuilt within the past couple of years. There's still showings of the destruction that happened. I'm going to have to note this down now.
I'm sorry. You meant to put me on the spot, but now I put you on the spot. Hey, one shot for
there were quite a few mercenaries as well as knights and soldiers from the Kingdom of Rodain's army that fought on these plains. It was a pretty bloody battle and had disrupted the trade routes due to, after the dispersal of this war band of gnolls, random ragtag groups of gnolls would sometimes attack traders that were going on this route through this area. This led to some fall in trade in the area, as everyone was forced pretty much to go through the Kazel Desert to the east of Avengarde in order to actually make their way to the western side of the Goldwind Dukedom. Or Duchy. I don't know why I keep calling it the Dukedom. The Goldwind Duchy. Obviously, now, most of the gnolls have been eliminated at this point in time. trade has been resumed so that way they can skirt around the desert, though taking longer. It is much easier on traveling. And trade has once again resumed within these past couple of years, but it was a very memorable time. A time in which you guys almost died. Gnolls and warbands like that are very difficult to deal with, especially since gnolls that are under this being are very savage. They do not fear death and will literally march over the corpses of their fallen allies while devouring them.
Ooh.
It was a very brutal and bloody battle, but one that's very memorable for you. It was during this point in time in which it was during this which actually kind of rose you guys to the standards of probably being a new generation of aces, pretty much like high tier mercenaries within the Avengardian Knights.
Mm-hmm.
Due to your training not being done, they weren't actually able to make you into mercenary knights, but it did help with your evaluation.
Yeah.
Well, let me type this out real quick.
Whoops. It's fine. This is definitely really interesting. That was really cool. That was like literally popped first thing in my head. I'm like, alright, adventure. Something fucking scary to fight. You know what? Gnolls. Gnolls are pretty vicious.
God, that means I'm gonna probably have to make some ruins in the in the Darkwood now. I almost call it the Blackwoods.
Oh no.
Oh well, that's okay. I'll just have to make a note of it. Let me find the Darkwood real quick and make a note in that as well. I'll just put on Darkwood Village. So how do you feel making history in the world by just coming up with a random adventure?
I love it. I can't wait for later. Whenever eventually we come up upon that, everyone's gonna be like, wait, what? We did a mission here? And I'm like, yeah.
Casper's just gonna be like, oh yeah, you remember that time in which we fought an army of gnolls? So I'm just gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We fought an army of gnolls. How could you all forget?
How could you forget that? It was like 2 years ago.
I'm getting very concerned about your guys' memory. He can't even remember the ogre that Steelbane fought by himself.
All right. So, uh, with that, you do catch her attention once more, and she kind of gives you a little smile. Well, Casserole, you seem to be a little more entertaining than I was going to say that you were. That was a lovely story, but what exactly are gnolls?
Gnolls are quite huge, ferocious dog beasts. Kind of have a bit of a hunchback and just nasty, gnarly things. Do you have paper or pen? I can possibly attempt to draw one for you. I'm not the best artist, but I can always attempt.
She kind of like scrunches up her nose at the description. Ah, sounds like horrid beasts. I'd rather not
I don't I
see
don't
them.
blame you, and the smell is horrendous.
Ugh. You actually do know for a fact that the smell of gnolls is indeed horrendous, especially followers of that demon lord, due to their disease-ridden bodies, as well as uh, their their what is the word that I'm thinking of that I can't think of right now? And also, why did Pancake suddenly stop playing music?
Pancake no.
Pancake is not responding.
Pancake no, why you die? Come back to
Pancake
life.
did die.
Baby, come back. You could blame it all on me.
Let me. There we go. Yeah, Pancake's not responding.
Oh, well.
That's awkward. Anyways, you know that they often, due to their savagery and amongst other things, that they tend to leave like the smell of like rot and decay behind them due to desecrated lands and bodies that they leave behind.
Got it.
The stench tends to stick to them.
Yeah.
Okay, let me close down Discord real quick, and then like reopen it. This kind of is irritating me actually. Strange.
Maybe they're doing. Oh! Oh no. He left. Technical difficulties, things will be back online eventually. Maybe. Yeah. Hello.
It's saying Pancake is offline for some reason.
Maybe they're doing maintenance on Pancake?
Uh, Weird. It's not saying. It is not registering.
We can always give me the link of the songs, and I can just have them playing in my background. And you can too. Because I can set those things on loop.
Well, I'm more wondering why.
Pancake's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Test something real quick. I know.
Yeah, the last maintenance they had was December 15th. Yeah, might as well follow their Twitter.
Hello, everybody out there. How's it going? My name is Seagizzle, and welcome back.
Authorize.
Waffle, join the party. Waffle.
Yeah.
Pancake's cousin.
Yeah, cousin. I believe Waffle can also play music, right?
Yeah. I just don't know how. I've never played with Waffle.
Yeah, actually, I'm not seeing a thing about playing music on this.
Huh.
Weird. Okay, good. Let me, like... I guess, like, kick Pancake and re-invite it. I don't know. I don't remember how to spell maintenance. Something like that. Pancake, come back.
Pancake, please.
This is kind of irritating. Invite. Boom.
Boom.
Authorize.
Pancake. Now work.
Okay. Oh, whoops. Yeah, no, it's just I think it is probably on maintenance or something like that. It's just straight up not working.
Hmm. Yeah. Matt's just like, oh, you're doing something. Yeah.
Uh,
Ooh.
oh, okay, there it goes.
Yeah.
It just waited forever.
Pancake. Gotta wake up.
Okay,
Well, it's working now. Yay!
that was weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't even remember where the hell was I.
She was asking what a knoll was. I told them they're big, ugly hyena dogs that smell really, really bad.
All right, yeah. Okay, so for the rest of the second day, you're sort of forced to accompany Yuki. You see the fact that she kind of acts like how you might see like a lord of a territory kind of acts.
Yeah.
Some people come with like messages, complaints, requests, reports, things like that, and she listens to them. 3 times a day for a couple hours. Once in the early morning, once around noon, and then another one in the early evening.
Makes sense.
You're forced to accompany her on like all of these, and they're pretty mundane topics for the most part. There is a couple that seem to be reports in which they look like as if they're kind of like they don't really look like as if they're like fully armed like soldiers, but they look sort of like armed scouts. Like they have like short bows and like some daggers and like a short sword or two that are strapped across them. And every once in a while, one of these scouts come in order to make a report during some of these, and they always give you this sort of strange look before she just kind of waves them off, and they go ahead and make the reports. A lot of them are just about what's going on around the city, inside the city proper, around the outskirts of the city. But there are a couple reports talking about Rhymewood Village,
Oh.
and they kind of give you strange looks as they make this report. Well, these reports. Mostly it's about what's going on at Rhymewood Village. You do receive information, the fact that Kari, as well as the Great Wolf, have left the village. But for some reason, the Great Wolf was seen running north with what looked like something riding on its back. But the being was not Kari. It looked like as if it was the person who's making this report actually looks towards you as they say this, but it looked like as if it was a couple of the new strangers who had recently come into the town. And Yuki sort of just like raises her eyebrow as she looks towards you.
Is there a reason they would head north?
They're probably looking for me. Maybe.
No.
Unless they decide they want to go towards They have some reason to go towards, what was that village over that way? The Iron Steel Tribe? Something like that. You were told not to go near it, so I didn't really pay much attention to it.
Those barbarians. I have no idea why they would look for you there. The Ironhide clan might very well kill you before they'd actually capture you, depending on how they're feeling that day and who you met.
True.
But I'm not them. Personally, I would assume that you were either eaten by wildlife or captured by me due to, you know,
He
my
smiles.
creatures had just attacked the town. I would have assumed that would have been common knowledge. Maybe not. I don't know what your little wolf princess friend might have told you.
Castron shrugs. Who knows? Maybe they even got a lead to whatever things they need to be doing here.
Oh. Anyways, go on, scout off with you. Do your job. Thank you very much for the report.
Castron smiles and waves at the scout.
He gives you a sort of strange look after giving a bow towards Yuki and leaves. After that, she seems a little preoccupied with her thoughts, and she doesn't really talk to you at all. She still forcefully makes you like accompany her doing things.
Oh, that's fine.
She doesn't
walk
leave
around and explore.
Yeah, she doesn't leave the castle for the entire day. She sort of just like kind of meanders around. At one point in time, she has like a couple maids make some tea, and she just kind of sits out in this small garden that is actually seemingly pretty well cared for. You do notice that this does have some strange plants growing in it. One of them you immediately recognize as the rhyme leaf.
Oh.
There does seem to be some sort of weird fruit-bearing tree that is there, and they look somewhat, the fruit that, they do have fruit on them, but the fruit is sort of weird. It almost looks like as if they're small silver apples. And there's also these strange silvery blue flowers that are being grown within the garden. Everything does not look like normal plants within this garden. It's very beautiful to look at. Like there's silvers and blues. Some of the leaves on some of these things are like kind of like these like deep purples or whites. And so there's like this weird like kind of like dark color scheme that is accentuated by these silvers and whites that sort of enhance it, giving this very winter-oriented feel and oddly kind of like fall or spring or early spring like weather. It's a very disconcerting sort of look and feel about it. It looks very cold, but it doesn't feel cold enough for that type of imagery. So it is a little off-putting, but she just sort of sits there and drinks some tea. The tea itself, it looks like normal tea. Tastes strange though. It does not taste like normal tea. It looks like normal tea. It looks like a normal light tea, not a dark tea like a black tea or anything like that. It looks like a light tea. But it doesn't have any sort of fruity flavor, but it does have this strange sort of like almost mint-like taste to it, but it doesn't seem to have mint in it, at least from what you've seen of the leaves and anything that was added in afterwards. All the tea was made in front of Yuki.
Interesting fauna here. Definitely strange for where I'm from, but beautiful nonetheless. Kind of looking around at the garden.
You see the fact Yuki doesn't say anything. She just kind of like stares blankly off into the distance while kind of sipping at the tea. She does so for probably about around 30 to 45 minutes before she just out of nowhere suddenly just stands up and just motions for you to follow.
Cast on follow.
At this point in time, it's probably around mid-afternoon. And roll me a percentile.
Okay. $52. Kind of in the middle.
It has nothing to do with I could have had you roll literally any dice.
Oh.
It is only based on evens or odds. I just, for some reason, felt like percentile.
That's fine. No one really uses it, so.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I thought of using it. Anyways, so she sort of seems like as if she hesitates for a moment, and the foyer, the sort of like the hall, the grand hall, entering into this castle. I don't know why in the world they said foyer. It's way larger than that. You're pretty much standing on this. What's it called? It's sort of like open area on a stairway, a landing.
Landing, yeah.
On this stairway. And you're standing on this landing right next to Yuki, and you see the fact that there are a couple maids that seem to be kind of dusting some stuff here and there. There is very beautiful stained glass that lets the sunlight filter in, making this like collage of rainbow colors across this hall that you're standing in right now. A very plush-looking pure white carpet goes from the bottom of the stair all the way across the hall to this large double door in the distance. You see several chandeliers made of either silver or platinum. You can't quite tell. It looks somewhat worn down a little bit. The metal seeming a little, I guess you could say, faded with time. It doesn't seem like as if it's been polished in a real long time.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, you can't really tell if it's silver or if it's platinum, but it's very obviously a precious metal. Along with that, you can see the fact that there are stands here and there along the walls that hold like vases or small like pitchers or pots of flowers, as well as what looks like small display stands. You can't from this distance see what might be in these. You also do see paintings that are all along this. This seems like a very, I guess you could say, like bourgeoisie sort of like place. This place is filled with money right here. Like if you sold everything in here, you'd probably have hundreds of thousands of platinum.
Mm-hmm.
The paintings themselves seem to be of a mixture of things. You can see the fact that some of it seems to be like landscape. Some of them seem to be people. It's a very wide mixture of things. And after a while, Yuki does walk down the stairs, and she calls out to one of the servants, telling them to cancel anything that for the rest of the day, as she's going to be heading out of the castle. They just pretty much give a nod of acquiescence, and one of the maids runs off, whatever. And as you exit out of the castle for the first time, and the only time so far, you're pretty much, you have this like picturesque scene in front of you. The castle itself is sort of elevated above the rest of the city on this hill, and you're pretty much looking down onto this hill filled with rows of buildings and things like that, in a sun that is starting to head towards setting. At this point in time, it's probably around like 3, maybe 4 p.m. Due to the fact that it's winter, the sun's pretty much is like in full-on set. It's full-on sunset by like 6, maybe 7 p.m. So it seems pretty late in the afternoon. It has this picturesque kind of like golden light that goes across this entire city. And in the distance, it looks beautiful, but you can see the buildings that are around the castle walls, that they are partially reclaimed by nature. You can see the fact that there are vines that are growing over them. There are some small trees that seem to be poking out of some of them. Here and there, as you're walking down the path through this large open garden towards this enormous front gate that is on this palace wall surrounding this castle wall. You can see some wild animals both inside and outside of the castle grounds. The castle grounds themselves seem somewhat taken care of. Like, it's not being overgrown by like tall grass and trees and stuff like that, but you can see the fact that a lot of the places where there might have once been like picturesque gardens and like beautifully pruned bushes and trees, they've been sort of left to somewhat flourish on their own. There's a beauty to this place, but it's sort of a wild, savage beauty, not so much as like a homey garden sort of like royal thing that you've somewhat come to understand and know that most nobles have. You finally make your way into the city proper itself. There's not really a whole lot of people here. The majority of this walk to wherever that you're going to, there is very few people that you run into, probably about as much as a handful. They do seem to be from like all walks of life. Like there's a dwarf, there's like a couple gnomes, some humans, things like that. There's not really any particular race that seems to outnumber any other race. There's just too few people there for that. After probably walking for the better part of a couple hours, at this point in time, it's full-on sunset mode. It's pretty much like 6 p.m. at this point in time. You make your way up this very, very wide street. It probably is large enough for about 5 carriages side by side to go up this thing. It leads up a low sloping hill. And at the very end of this enormously wide street, you can see what looks almost like a castle at the end of it. As a much smaller one than the castle that you saw originally, but it almost looks like a castle in the distance. It has these low, pure white walls that seem to surround it. And after probably about another 45 minutes of walking, you finally make your way to the top of this low hill. And you are standing, what you can now see is a grand cathedral. You see the symbols of saloon on this enormous stained glass window on this gigantic dome that you can just barely see. The dome itself seems like as if it's made of stained glass as well. The gate is left wide open. You don't really see anybody milling about. There seems to be like maybe a priest or two from what you can tell. It's hard to tell. They're just kind of wearing robes, but they're not like the traditional robes of saloon, that sort of like silvery blue and white and those colors that is more normally associated with saloon. Walking in though, the sunlight gets transferred by the stained glass into this sort of like cold silver and blue. And you see the image of stars and the full moon on the enormous cathedral's ground in the very center. A lot of the windows here do not have any glass in them. It lets light filter in purely on its own. But for one reason or another, you do not know why, most, if not all, windows in churches of saloon have a sort of enchantment on them that do not let sunlight in. And any sunlight that is let in is only let in through stained glass to make it look like as if it is dark, almost like nighttime, like as if it's a full moon. So the cathedral itself is very dark. There's candles here and there that seem to be lit. You see candelabras on small stands around the cathedral's grounds. Somewhat worn out, partially rotted pews seem to line up this enormous carpet that looks, for whatever reason, absolutely pristine and absolutely gorgeous. It is this very royal dark blue that has silver stars that seem to be dotted across it, making this night sky. And at the very end, on these stairs leading up, the carpet actually partially goes up this what looks like a ledger of some sort. Not a ledger, a stand of some sort, where it looks like as if a ledger or a book might rest. And on it is a brilliant almost looking like as if it's sort of glowing in the dark light. Full silver moon. Around this moon, you see the symbol of Saloon, which I'm not sure if you remember me mentioning what the symbol of Saloon is.
I can't currently, but I'm sure I've seen it before. I can always pull it up.
Yeah, the symbol of Saloon is a pair of eyes surrounded by 7 stars. You see the fact that the eyes are on the moon itself, and there are 7 stars that are surrounding the outside of the silver moon. The moon itself, as well as the stars and the eyes, all seem to be glowing in this dark light.
Yeah.
You can see the fact that this dragonborn cleric seems to be sitting on one of the pews. And for the first time, as long as you've known her, Yuki actually tells you that you can explore the cathedral on your own. And she just says that and then makes her way over to this cleric. You don't know the cleric's name. She's only ever referred to him as High Priest, which he sort of accepts the title seemingly begrudgingly, or cleric. She's never actually called him by name, much similar to you, where she normally refers to you as just like her little jester or jester for the most part. Very rarely does she ever actually call you by name.
Very well. We'll kind of walk around, maybe keeping an ear trying to listen in, but definitely trying to seem like he's looking around.
So are you actually looking around, or are you faking looking around, trying to listen in on them talking?
I'm gonna fake listen around.
Okay,
So
roll me a deception check then for that.
21.
Okay. You're kind of wandering around here and there, standing, staring at some of the, like, kind of like fancy lights that seem to be coming in from the stained glass, seeming to like marvel at it. It is actually a pretty stunning sight. It kind of weirds you out, the fact that the sunlight is somehow like pretty much through the use of this stained glass turned into looking like as if it's moonlight instead.
Mm-hmm.
But due to this, you're kind of able to keep somewhat close to them without them really seeming to mind your presence. And you somewhat hear them talking, and you hear this cleric is the one that's kind of initiates the conversation. My lady, is there something that you need of me? It's not often that you come to the Grand Cathedral. You see a look of loss appear on Yuki's face. She seems sort of not really there completely, like as if her mind is in another place. You know, Jin. Oh, I guess I should probably switch the voice.
You know, Jen. I was just thinking about him again. And I couldn't help but wonder. You constantly tell me to find peace with myself, but I find satisfaction and peace in the things that I do now, and protecting his place, remembering him when no others remember him. But there are times when I feel like now, a sense of loss. Like as if I know that he wouldn't want me to still be here.
She seems to kind of trail off for a moment, and you see her eyes sort of glaze over. The Dragonborn sort of like somewhat talks to her, like reciting like some scriptures and stuff like that. And then seeing the fact that none of them really get through to her, he finally just kind of sighs and he looks down at his clasped hands. My lady, any man who loved his wife would not want them to be bound to eternal servitude like you are now. If you truly wish to appease him, to make him feel at peace as well, it might be best for you to accept that times have changed and to move on. You can't really tell if Yuki really listened to that, but the cleric looks a little pained as he stands up and he starts to move towards the back of the cathedral, which you can't really see in the darkness very much, but he grabs a candle and he brings it with him. And you see the fact that there is what looks almost like this altar that is just full of these silver and blue candles, and he starts to one by one light them. And as he lights them, you see the fact that there is an enormous portrait that is somewhat being lit up by these candles as he's lighting more of them. And then as he lights them all, he kneels down and he says a prayer and he reaches his hand up and you see a light shoot up to what looks like as if is a small hanging brazier. And this light hits that, and suddenly the entire area around this altar is lit up, and you see this enormous portrait fully lit up by this magical kind of like soft silver light. And what you see is quite strange. You see a kind of slim but beautiful looking tiefling woman. Her skin, you can't really tell if it's a really dark purple or black, and she has bright silver eyes. She's wearing these sort of like loose fitting robes, almost more like a sort of like dancer's garb, with a sort of like satin scarf that seems to kind of go like across her shoulders behind her. And there seems to be a tattoo of the 7 stars across her forehead, and a strange sort of like silvery net pulls her hair back, her pure black hair back behind her, and sort of like this sort of gauzy veil almost. And looking at her, you see also these strange black horns that seem to have almost like what looks like dots of silver. You don't know if they might be like some sort of metal or if they were enchanted that way or what, but it almost looks like as if her horns are like the sky, the night sky itself. And everything about her screams a cleric or priestess of Saloon. But what surprises you the most is the fact that her very look is actually very reminiscent of you yourself. This sort of dark purple skin, the cleric regalia and everything. You almost feel like as if you're looking at a female version of yourself. The only thing that's really missing is the fact that the skin seems to be darker and she has silver eyes instead of red.
Cassie's kind of just looking up, staring at it for a long moment.
You do see that this Dragonborn, Jin, is what Yuki called him, seems to be looking at the portrait while saying something. It sounds almost like as if he's muttering a prayer of some sort.
If I may ask, sorry to interrupt, but who is she?
You see the fact that he's holding a holy symbol of Saloon as he seems to be finishing up his prayers, and he ends it by saying, "May Our Lady of Silver, she who guides, keep her bright light guiding throughout the night." And he slowly stands up and looks to you, and he kind of has a look of confusion for a moment before he just slowly shakes his head. He looks a lot older somehow. Well, I can't really say older. He feels like as if he's a lot older. He feels like as if he's in like his later years. You haven't really seen enough Dragonborn to really know how old he might be, but he exudes this sort of like wise and calm sort of feeling.
Wise old man.
He exudes the feeling of an elder. He doesn't say anything, but he motions towards the base of this painting, where you see a large platinum plaque right below it, and it says Cassandra Nilsson, High Priestess of Saloon. After a moment of silence, he looks back. He doesn't look back towards you. He kind of like glances towards you and then keeps looking at the painting. Cassandra was the last High Priestess of Saloon. She was the woman who was sacrificed by the High King of that time, Gulren. Sacrificed for a ritual, which ended up failing.
What ritual?
He doesn't seem to really pay attention to what you're saying. He keeps staring at it. And he walks up. And he picks up a few candles, probably about like half a dozen, and sets them off to the side. And you see the fact that there's actually a small alcove below the painting that was blocked off by these candles. And he reaches in and pulls out a small box, and he opens it up. And inside is actually another portrait. This one a lot smaller, probably about like 6 inches across and about like 4 inches tall. It's really not that big. But it has this sort of golden, like swirling frame around it, and the portrait itself seems to be of 3 tiefling women. One of them is obviously Cassandra. There's 2 other ones. The other 2 looking like as if have been younger sisters. One of them seems to have silver hair instead of black, and the last one has red hair, but instead has not red hair, black hair, but instead of having silver eyes like the other 2, has red eyes. Cassandra was sacrificed in a ritual to harness the heart of Earth. The ritual failed, and enraged, the two sisters. One of them, and he puts like a finger on the silver-haired tiefling, had her name lost to time, expunged from all records. Many know her as the Pale Lady. The other one, and he points towards the black-haired, red-eyed tiefling, was a traveling cleric known as Rowanessa, who, after witnessing the fall of the saloon's clergy within Austria, left, abandoning the people to their fate.
I see.
It was that day, the day in which the last High Priestess was sacrificed, that Austria lost Saloon's light. A High Priestess of Saloon, a goddess of light, of life and knowledge, of guardianship, sacrificed in the name of darkness and greed. Of course the goddess would abandon people such as that. But Scales of Saloon still attempt to bring Our Lady of Silver's lost light back to this land. For one, it's home, and for two, it's only right to honor a fallen High Priestess. He kind of like rubs over the painting a little bit. You can see the fact that the painting looks a little worn and faded. He's probably done this quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look directly at you, but he does address you directly. So what does a tiefling like yourself, bearing the regalia of a liar, need to do in these lands? Lands of forgotten light and hidden darkness.
I'm only here to restore the Heart of Fire. Do some research on some tales in this book. Nothing more.
I see. He just gives a few nods and he puts the portrait, the small portrait, back into the box and sets the box back into the small alcove, placing the candles back in their places. Before he just gives you a small bow and then starts to leave.
Cassian will walk over to the lady, to Yuki.
Are you alright, my lady?
You see this glazed look still over her eyes as she's sort of like moving her head back and forth, almost like as if she's hearing some sort of song in her head. And you see her eyes that were kind of like this like blue-black, sort of like abyssal like blue kind of color, have darkened even more in the light, where they look like as if they're just pure black orbs. And you see a sort of glimmer in her eyes, like as if she's holding back tears.
Night is coming once again. I best prepare for it.
And then she just suddenly stops and then stands up and starts to leave.
I'll start to follow her and kind of look up at her.
So, your husband, if I may ask, what was he like, or you miss him?
Roll me an insight check, real quick.
Haha, dirty 20.
You have a feeling that she is not paying attention to anything around her. She looks like as if she's somewhat there, but like she's trapped in like her own sort of world, like as if she can't really like see or hear anything else around her. She's just sort of seeming to move on instinct, and that's all reinforced by the fact that as you start to leave the cathedral itself and the cathedral grounds onto this main road, she suddenly you feel this like cold air around, and you see the fact that as she's walking, she starts to fade into snow and then just disappears from sight.
Guess I'll take a deep breath.
I guess start heading towards... No. He's gonna turn around and try and seek out that priest again if he's still there. At least go to where he was.
It's not hard to find him. At this point in time, the moon has started to rise. It's probably around like 8 o'clock at this point in time. There was a decent amount of time in which the cleric was just sort of rambling on about scriptures and stuff like that before he moved over to the painting of Cassandra.
Yeah.
You do see him in the moonlight working on something outside the cathedral. It looks like as if he's working on a small bed of flowers. And as the moon is rising, you can see the fact that the moon is hitting more and more of the different parts of the church. And all of these like flowers that you weren't really paying attention to, as they seemed really like dead. There was no actual like flower petals. The bulbs all seemed sealed up. But as the moonlight starts touching them, you see the fact that they start to unfold, and there are these silvery white petals that seem to glow in the moonlight, and they all start unfolding. And all around the Grand Cathedral's grounds are all these small silver flowers that are now seeming to light up the entire hallowed grounds. It gives a very sort of sacred feel to it.
Yeah. Pretty. Very pretty.
You can see the fact that as you move over towards him, he looks like as if he's like weeding out the flower beds, and without you even addressing him, he calls out towards you. Does a person of Liera need something from these old bones?
The more just, I guess, questions about the lady, if I'm able to ask.
I see no reason why not to, but if you're here, you might as well work. Here.
Very well.
And he holds out his hand, and you can see the fact that there is a pair of dark blue gloves in his hand.
I will take the gloves
They got some weed in a flower bed.
You put them on. They feel very thin and soft. But you do see the fact that he is wearing these gloves as well, and even as he's like digging through the flower bed and like pulling out these tough weeds and things like that, he doesn't look like as if he's being affected at all. It doesn't seem like as if it's affecting his hands, though. For all you know, you could chalk that up to the fact that he is technically full of scales.
True. I guess I'll start pulling out these weeds. Tempting to.
Yeah, roll me a nature check for that.
Fun. It's like, pause looking. Do I know how to do this? Maybe.
Not
Probably
really.
not.
So as you start doing, you kind of like are like, you have the gloves on, you're just like kneeled down next to him, like kind of like, all right, I can do this. And then you're just staring at the flower bed and you're just like,
I've never
I have
done this
no idea
once.
how to do this.
I've never done this once in my life. I've always watched others do it.
You hear Jin chuckle a bit. Okay, let me show you the start of this. See these? And he starts to point out like these small little grasses that, for all you know, are literally just grass. These are annoying weeds. If you leave the roots in there, they'll spread and double, if not triple, seemingly overnight. Make sure that you pull out the roots. Dig a little bit. Make sure you grab the roots. Gently pull them with just enough strength to actually pull them free from the dirt. And he shows you, and he like digs a little bit into the ground, and he starts to pull it. And you can see the fact that this like long string of roots come up, and he sort of like, as he like starts pulling close to flowers, he sort of like digs a little bit and tries to make sure the fact that he's not pulling up the flowers, and he's like gently pulling these weeds up.
Alright, I will give it a try. I will try and do it.
Keep in mind, some of them do not grow horizontally like this, but vertically. On those ones, it's much easier to lose the roots. Make sure that you dig deep enough to actually see the bottom of the roots before you start to try and pull them out. If they seem like as if they're taking a long time to dig through it, try and do a little bit of twisting as you pull up. Not too hard, but just enough twisting to sort of give it a rotational motion. It'll help free some of the dirt.
Alright.
Go ahead and roll another nature check with advantage on this one, as he starts to go back to like where his little patch where he's weeding. So, what does the Lady of Miss Cleric wish to have unveiled? What secrets are you wanting?
Well, for one, a cleric or priest of saloon, knowing that there's an undead here. Normally you guys aren't too keen on undead, but the lady's different.
Well done. Yes, keep weeding like that. So you're wishing to know my relationship with the lady?
A bit.
Very well. I have no reason to keep it secret. It should be very clear to you that Lady Yuki is very different from most spirits. She's not driven by thoughts of revenge or hatred, anger. She holds no true grudges. She's a spirit of protection, a violent one, but a spirit of protection nonetheless.
You can say violent again. Just gave me a scary encounter first day I've met her. But I'm still alive, so definitely grateful.
As a guardian spirit, I have no right under the goddess Saloon to pry such a duty from a loyal being such as her. You may or may not know this, but Saloon is many things. A navigator, a tracker, a wanderer, a goddess of love, a goddess of light, of knowledge. One of her lesser known domains is the fact that she is very much a guardian against all the things in the dark. Clerics and priests of Saloon respect such guardians. That's the reason why a long time ago, paladins of Saloon were considered some of the best, the strongest. They were born guardians. So to bring it back to Lady Yuki, she may be undead, a spirit, but she's a spirit of protection, of strength, of guardianship. Even as an undead, that still follows under the domain of She Who Guides. Until the lady breaks that oath of protection that she holds so dear, I will not forcefully expel her from this world. But, and he looks over towards you as he's pulling up some of the weeds. Oh, you missed a little bit there. And he, like, pushes your hands over towards, like, a little patch of weeds that you missed. But
sorry.
I wouldn't stop other people from putting her to rest. And he looks, like, directly at your eyes as he says this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a follower of Saloon, so I'd have no reason to stop you. That is if you even can, though.
Currently, I don't think so.
No, definitely not by yourself. But, from what the lady has said, you have friends, allies. With enough assistance, even the lady would not be able to fully protect herself. That is the reason why she still allows people into the city, not only to honor her late husband, but for her own protection as well. She protects them, and they in turn protect her, in one manner of speaking or another.
Her late husband, who was that, if I may ask, or do you even know?
I know his name. I'm not much for studying the history of the land, more related to things such as Our Lady of Silver. But she has spoke to me once of his name. I won't forget it. It was a very tragic sight, as she lost herself in grief. His name was, I believe it was Eric Olson.
I'm looking to see if I know this name.
You don't.
That's not. Nothing that rings any bells.
I would imagine not. She often laments about the fact that he is a forgotten king. One who had many dreams and a very strong ambition to protect and nurture his people, but was killed too early in life.
Before or after Guldran?
Oh, after. Much, much later. At least half a dozen, if not more, generations after the fall of the High King.
Alright.
He continues weeding some of the plant beds right there, and he seems to kind of finish up, and he has this soft, sort of satisfied smile on his face before he gives a bit of a nod and he stands up and he kind of stretches, and you hear like his back sort of cracking, and he gives out like a bit of a groan before he looks down at you. Are there any other questions that you have? For seeking me out so late in the... One question, what is it?
Here, and he'll kind of pull out his book. I don't know how I came to owning this, or how it became of my possession, what time, and how it just kind of showed up. But it's a bunch of journal entries of the Pale Lady and someone who traveled with her.
Are you, like, holding out the book towards him?
Yeah.
He grabs it, and as soon as he grabs it, you see this, like, kind of, like, frowning look on his face. You say it has entries of the Pale Lady and other people in it. What sort? He says as he, like, starts to open the cover of the book and look into it.
Well, one entry you might find interesting is Gentle Heart of an Avalas.
You see this strange sort of, like, look of disorientation kind of come across his face before he kind of shakes it and he looks towards you. Avanas Gentleheart,
Yes.
servant of Selene. There's entries about her in this book.
Mainly, it speaks and tells the tale of her death and some conversation beforehand.
Strange. You say you can read this, but it just looks like gibberish to me. Like, you can see the fact that he seems to be kind of like straining himself almost as he's kind of like flipping through these pages.
I mean, I can read it to you if you'd like. That's honestly kind of... The last person who I handed this to, she told me never to bring it to her again. Was the Silver Lady, a tiefling over towards the southern part of the continent.
You see the fact that he, like, as you say that, he kind of like looks up a little bit as he flips over a page, and then immediately there's like his face goes from like this kind of like disoriented, almost kind of pained look to look of like shock, and he like looks down, and you see his mouth just like slowly open up, and his hands start to shake, and he almost looks like as if he has this like silent scream.
I take the book from him.
He immediately collapses to the ground, and he is panting heavily. He looks like as if he went through like a marathon right now.
Are you okay? And I'm gonna do like a healing word on him.
What is that book?
I'm gonna be honest. Not quite sure. I need to stop handing this to people.
He stands up and he sort of like adjusts the robes on him a little bit, and he actually takes like a large, wary step away from you, looking more towards the book than anything else. I don't know how you're able to withstand that curse, but it's filled with too many emotions.
Well,
It was overwhelming.
I mean, too many emotions is right about this thing. At least some of the stories. If you'd like, I can read it for you. Though
It's fine. I don't need to know the contents of the book. There was so much sadness and anger and hatred, so much hatred, and he looks like as if he like starts like to lose himself. His eyes like glaze over. So much hatred. Who wrote this book? And he looks like as if he's actually about to start crying. Like, that's how much this book has affected him.
Casfron closes it and puts it away. The Pale Lady and her traveler. Though one of the entries, unfortunately, I think is written in his blood.
He looks towards you with, like, genuine tears in his eyes. His hands, like, kind of, like, shaking while he's holding the symbol of Saloon. I heard the legends, the stories of the Pale Lady, of the trials and tribulations she went through. By the gods. And he just sort of, like, he holds the symbol of Saloon up to his forehead, and he starts to mumble something in Draconic.
Don't know that, that's fine. I apologize, I didn't know it'd put you through so much grief. God, I feel like I need to apologize to the Silver Lady now.
Upon you saying that, he stops his prayers and his eyes open wide and he looks at you. You've met her, the Silver Lady.
Yes, she's in the south.
Where? Where in the south?
Why are you wanting to know? I'm not sure if I'm really supposed to tell where she's at. Plus, I don't think she's quite fond of me, honestly. I handed her the book and she had a horrible reaction.
He like kind of like his eyes sort of glaze over for a moment before you hear him mutter something along the lines of you met the lost princess.
The lost princess?
Yes, her name. Avengarde, the daughter of the Pale Lady.
I see. More things. How do I spell that?
Well, it's the same name as the dragon, Avanos.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay. Avanas, what? Oh, it's just...
Baravan.
Thank you. I appreciate this.
There we go.
Ah, thank you. I'm putting this in my notes, but thank you. I'll just copy and paste that. Well, it's good to know a name of her. She's safe and well. She's well taken care of. Next time I see her, I can attempt to give her a contact to you, but again, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to give locations, but she's safe and in good hands. Honestly, you'd probably be proud of her.
He sort of has like this almost savage look in his eyes as he grabs you by the shoulder, like his claws like sort of digging into you. Where is she? Where is the last High Priestess of Saloon?
Jessica does not remember this freaking area. I guess a history check of the town it was called. I know it was... Goddamn. Can I pull out the map? I don't know where the map is.
I don't think you would have the map on you, to be honest.
Well, not anymore. The others... No, I do have the map of the north, but I probably don't have one of
of the regular continent on me currently.
No, because I think the only two people who had maps were Bon and I almost said Eris. No, it is Eris.
Eris didn't have a map. She specifically
No,
said
she bought a
would...
map.
Okay. I thought I had one, but okay. Unless I just constantly was like, Bon, let me borrow. Hands.
Yeah, you kept taking the map from Bon.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay, so I guess I'll just do it.
Bon had a map because he's a cartographer person.
Okay.
Oh, Eris has an Avengarde city map. That's what she has. I knew she had some sort of map. I can't remember.
And I have the map of the actual continent, but it's got like crazy writings of Casserons trying to figure out where things are.
Yeah, that's the map that you have. Bon's the only one with like a map of the dukedom. The duchy. Why do I keep calling it dukedom? I don't know why. Oh, it's because I titled it that in the freaking thing. I don't know why in the world I did that.
I guess I'll do a history check. Jessica doesn't have it.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm trying to find it through my notes, but damn, 21. I
You
had like half
remember
my notes erased, and I'm very sad.
You remember that the closest village to it was named after the very mountains in which the Silver Lady, who is apparently named Avanos, resides in, and that is the Cloudspire Mountains. The closest village to that is the Cloudspire Village, which is the very southern side of the Goldwind Duchy.
Got it. Look, I cannot give exact locations, but she's over towards the Cloudspire Mountains. I can try and deliver a letter for you, but it's up to her.
He lets you go, and his hands are still somewhat shaking. And he turns around and he takes a few deep breaths. And after a moment, he seems a lot more calm.
Kind of rub my shoulders. Claws, man.
Yeah, it did feel pretty painful. Do you know if she had... Do you know if she had the symbol of Saloon with her?
I don't think I remember seeing one.
You don't.
No.
You only remember the fact that she had full plate armor on.
If she did, it was hidden underneath full plate armor. I didn't see one.
I see.
I didn't even know her name was Avanas. We were told to call her the Silver Lady. Not the Pale Lady, the Silver Lady.
I understand. I thank you for informing me of this. I had been looking for the children of the High Priestess's bloodline, if any had survived. I didn't know if the Pale Lady ever had children, but it was said that she once had a lover. I'd been searching for... There was a saying that the Silver Lady was the Pale Lady, or perhaps a reincarnation, a resemblance, maybe even the daughter of the Pale Lady. I don't know if that's true, but I had found information that her name was Avanas. Avanas Baravan.
Well, again...
You should recognize her last name. If you go into your your Discord thing and you scroll to the very top.
Wait a minute. I just popped in my head. I was like, part of it. Oh shit. Cast on a pause after like it just hit on him, and he'll look up. You say Breverhan, right?
Baravan, yes.
Breverhan. I don't know an Avanas, but I know a Peleus.
Name does not sound familiar.
No, but I can look into it.
The legends say that the Pale Lady had a lover, an elven lover. It was said that he founded the Baravan bloodline, that he was supposedly a wandering elven prince. Whether or not that holds any truth, I don't know, but I do know of the Baravan bloodline and the southern forests in Sindane.
Casseron will kind of pull out his book looking, just like, well, there was definitely an elf wandering around with her. Didn't exactly give a name.
So she might really be the Pale Lady's daughter.
Possibly, but I have connections to the Beerven family, so I can try there. Interesting that he...
It's unlikely that they would know of her, but if you wish to look into that, then I have no reason to stop you.
Well, they
The
might not...
Cloudspire Mountains. That's where I need to go. Thank you. And he looks a little lost. I never did catch your name, Tiefling.
The name's Casseron Lux.
Thank you, Casseron. You've brought the light itself back into my life. I hope to one day repay you.
You helping me with this is enough for now. And though, are you leaving currently? What about kind of looking out where the lady disappeared?
I am not under any sort of contractual obligations or anything of that sort. I was only here to take care of the Grand Cathedral while I was here. I've always been a part of the Scales of Saloon, and the lady knows this. She tolerates my presence and uses me for amusement and advice, nothing more, nothing less.
Amusement, I can see. I'm her little jester for now, though I guess I can't help it with the way I dress. She's not the first one to call me that.
He kind of gives a wry smile with a small chuckle. Tell you what, stay here for a moment. And he goes into the cathedral.
Casseron's gonna look at the painting again, kind of just pausing.
You're outside the cathedral right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys are still standing like next to the flower bed.
That's right, okay. Then I look at the flowers. They're very pretty.
It takes probably about 3 to 4 minutes before you start to hear footsteps once again. And you see Jin come out with a small, delicate-looking silver box with filigree all over it of the same flowers that you're looking at right now. You see the symbol of Saloon on top of it, and he actually like whispers something to the box, and the box clicks open, and he opens it up, and he pulls out an amulet. You see the fact that this amulet has silver and sapphire beads that make up the actual like necklace part itself, and the symbol, the holy symbol of Saloon, hangs from the bottom of it. The eyes made of pure sapphire and moonstone stars circling around it. And he hands it to you. I know that Saloon is not the goddess you follow, but you may very well be able to make some use of this. Of course, it wouldn't be as effective as someone of the Order of Saloon using it, but it still holds holy power.
Thank you. Though, to be honest, kind of looking towards where the painting was, I don't think this will be the last time I'm hearing about the Lady Saloon.
Most likely not. You bear a striking resemblance to their family, though I don't know why.
Cassandra will kind of look up at him and kind of swallow. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm an orphan. I don't even know where I'm from. So it's a little bit shocking seeing that. Part of me's kind of hopeful, maybe learning a little bit more about myself if I am related to them, but also part of me's... I don't think they'd be fond of a follower of Lyra, but I could be wrong.
I do not know, but Saloon is always welcoming, should you ever have a change of heart, of faith. And fret not, even as an orphan. Know that the light that trails behind the moon is said to be Saloon's tears of both joy and sorrow. Joy accompanies sorrow, just such as sorrow accompanies joy. You live your life following your own path, or following the path lit by Saloon herself, should you wish. But know that you make the good times full of joy, just as you can make the sad times full of sorrow. It is your own choice to do so. Fret not your background. Hold your head proud. There's no reason for you to look down. You have the feeling like as if he's like trying to comfort you in some way, but like because of the fact that you're not really like a person of Saloon, he's like starting to say like some phrases that are often said amongst people of Saloon, or like clerics of Saloon comforting like followers or just like mere commoners. But like he feels like as if you can obviously tell the fact that he feels like as if trying to comfort you in the way that a Saloonite might comfort like a commoner or another Saloonite might be awkward for someone of a different religion. And so he kind of like stops it and then like unintentionally falls back into it, and it's like this weird kind of like conjoined like like mess of phrases and stuff like that seems like as if he's meaning well, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Cassandra will smile and chuckle at that and nod. I see what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it. By no means do I regret following Lyra. She's given me a new light to things and a purpose to follow. It's just interesting seeing all of this.
Well, regardless, while Lyra is no enemy of Saloon, neither is she a friend. Someone who hides in the shadows and keeps from the light, trying to stay hidden, is no friend of a being such as Saloon, who's the light herself. Know that while you can draw power from this amulet, you'll never be able to draw the full power of it as a follower of Lyra, and I apologize for that.
That's alright.
Should you wish to find an amulet of your own, goddess, I would suggest you look amongst your own clergy, possibly.
Of course. Thank you, I do
As a-
appreciate it.
As a small explanation, this is an amulet powered by faith, though. Which does mean that while you can only function with a small portion of its strength, the more devout you are, the more power you can pull from it, even as someone who is not a follower of Saloon. AKA, this is, as you might look in your inventory now at the very top, this is called an Amulet of the Devout.
Ooh.
This has it is a magic item.
Yeah.
It has a very unique purpose, in which, while you are attuned to it, your spells have a +1 bonus to attacks and saving throws. Which means the fact that your saving throws, as it is currently, is a 13. With you being attuned to this, that would bump up to a 14.
Hell yeah.
And the same thing with your spell attacks. Instead of them just being, I think it's 5 for you currently, it would bump that up to a 6.
Yeah.
You have a feeling that this amulet is extremely powerful, but you do not have the means in which to harness its full strength. This is a tiered amulet. It can be of +1, +2, or +3 strength.
Mm-hmm.
As a follower of Liera, from what he has said, if you want to actually attain the +3 strength of it at a later date, you would have to find one that is made in dedication to Liera or convert to Saloon.
Got it.
Once you have attained enough strength of fate, it will boost up to a +2. AKA once you reach a certain level.
Yeah. Neat.
But yeah. So, yeah.
Castle will nod and pocket it. Oh, thank you. And good luck on your travels. Don't tell the Pale Lady I told you where you were, where she is. I don't think she's quite fond of me currently.
Well, let me just put it this way. If she's anything like her mother, then I won't need to tell her. She'll find out on her own.
Ah, lovely. Well, I guess something I'll have to go through eventually. Oh well. I'll weasel myself out of it eventually, maybe, hopefully. We'll see.
Alright. So, at this point in time, it's probably around like 9:30, 9:45 in the evening. It's starting to get pretty late.
Yep. Guess I should go back to the castle. I don't think I can leave quite yet.
I mean, you don't know.
I don't know. But also facing the wilderness by myself.
That's fair. I understand.
The wilderness is what brought me here.
That's true.
So.
Alright. So. You make your way back to the castle. Roll me an intelligence check. You pretty much just blindly followed Yuki here. And it was quite a distance across the city.
Gotta find my intelligence. Da,
Let's see how lost you get.
Da.
Or not lost you get.
6.
You get pretty freaking lost.
Son of a
So
bitch.
you start making your way across, and you go down the main, let's call it the Grand Cathedral Street. You make your way down it, and you turn off of it, and you're making your way across, and you're just like, oh yeah, I remember the way back.
I
And then
can find this. It'll be fine. Easy. It was just one
just like, I
straight
just gotta
route,
go
right?
to the castle on the hill over there, and then like as you start to like move from like the wide streets into the smaller streets, making your way towards the castle, suddenly like an hour and a half later, you're just like, where am I?
How did I get lost? It's a giant castle. How is this hard? Okay. I made a wrong turn there. Maybe if I get back on the main street. Where is the main street? Alright. Forward. I can't go wrong.
So you start to just like kind of forcefully go forward, and after a bit, you make it onto a somewhat wider street. It's pretty dark, as in like extremely dark. As in, if you didn't have dark vision, you'd literally be just feeling your way across the street right now.
My dark vision is doing little for me. But no, it's
Oh
fine.
no, it's doing a lot for you. You're not having to feel around blindly in the dark.
True.
Anyways.
But it could be better.
It could be. So, you are sort of like blindly walking through streets and stuff like that. Not a soul in sight. Everybody seems to have either disappeared or retired or died, for all you know. You don't really know what the hell's going on at this point.
She snapped. She could have finally snapped.
In the middle of all that, you hear a voice call out behind you. Roll me a history check. Well, roll me an intelligence check as you hear a voice call out to you in the dark.
12.
You can't immediately put any sort of face or name to the voice, but as you turn around to look at this man who addresses you, you hear him say, "You seem to be lost. Do you need assistance? Where are you needing to go?" And as you turn around, you see a very familiar figure, and you can just barely make out. Almost seems like as if he's cut out of the darkness. This man in pure black armor with a longsword and clawed gauntlet. You remember this man, because once upon a time, this man killed you. This is Arswick.
Towards the castle. But I think I can find it, maybe.
Obviously not. You're walking in the wrong direction, for one. Come, I'm done with my night stroll anyways. I have to talk to the lady in the morning.
Insight to see if he knows who I am.
Okay, go for it.
19.
He doesn't seem to realize who you are. If he does, then he is making a very good showing of not showing you. It's a little hard to tell what he's thinking due to the fact that he does have a helmet on. But he doesn't have his sword drawn. It's sheathed at his hip. This long black cloak is kind of like enveloping his right side. His left clawed gauntlet is still out for you to see. The sword is on his left hip, and he just sort of turns around and starts walking off, seeming to assume that you're going to follow him.
Yep, I will follow him, but keeping a safe distance.
After walking for about, I would say, an hour and a half. At this point in time, you should have already made it back to the castle. It's like almost 2 o'clock in the morning at this point.
Shouldn't we have already made it to the castle?
Well, yes, if you had wandered at least in somewhat the correct direction. The castle's on the northern side of the city. Somehow you are wandering south. You have no sense of direction, do you?
No. Gonna be honest, no.
Of course. Is there something wrong? He stops and he seems to glance towards you. You see the fact that, like, you weren't able to really tell at first, but as he's sort of like glancing over his shoulder at you, sort of like half turned in your direction, you see that there seems to be like this glimmer of green, almost like as if you might have like green eyes or like green flame or something like that in the slit of the helmet visor. You seem cautious. Do I know you?
What? No. At least I don't think so. Just kinda new here. Good to be cautious. At least for my stance.
You seemed like a flamboyant one to me. I guess clothes don't make the person at all. And he just kind of nonchalantly just shrugs his shoulders and starts walking forward again.
Catherine glares at his head, but says nothing. As he continues, because he is lost.
You do see the fact that you're on another main road, and it seems like as if it's actually heading up a hill, probably in the general direction of the castle.
Mm-hmm.
What brings you to the city? Not many people seek out Lady Yukiko.
More like she found me and kept me.
See, of course she did. Swear she'll never break that bad habit, trying to entertain her boredom. She's so bored, why doesn't she just pass on? Others don't have that luxury.
What about you? What are you doing here? Fun, travel, she keeping you as well?
You see the fact that as soon as you ask, what are you doing here, he stops for a moment and you feel cold sweat start to go down your back as he glances over his shoulder towards you. And that like flicker of green light seems to actually be literally glowing in his helmet now as he stares towards you. That has nothing to do with you. I suggest you don't ask too many questions.
Yes, fine.
Small talk is fine.
You asked me the same question. I thought I might return the favor, but I understand.
You had no need to answer me if you didn't want to.
True.
He starts walking forward, and you see the fact that he seems to shake his head a little bit. My apologies. I'm a bit on edge as of late.
Oh. How come? Well, if I'm allowed to ask. No need to answer, as you said.
My colleagues are straining on my nerves.
Straining.
Strange. You don't seem to be from Austria, and yet you also don't seem to know who I am. Where are you from? Tieflings aren't normally from the south. You couldn't have come from the eastern continent either, did... Are you based in Rodaine or Alavrin? I'd highly doubt the Doldrum technocracy. No, someone such as you probably would have already been turned into a slave. You wouldn't be up here.
That's for me to know and you've to find out.
Yes, like I was about to say myself, no matter. It's not like as if I actually need to know. I don't know if my colleagues will come here, and I have no idea how long you plan on staying here, but if you see a monstrous, short-looking woman,
God, that sounds awful.
often touts herself around as being a powerful alchemist. She's called Zayla. Try to avoid her. We were supposed to meet within the city, but it seems like as if she was caught up with other things.
Well,
I say this more for the fact that you seem to be a somewhat, at least for now, favored toy of the lady. And I don't need be getting on her bad side already. Our relationship is strained enough.
Very well, very well. Though she sounds as monstrous as you say, I don't think I'd really want to get toyed with her.
He stops once more. You guys are getting pretty close to the castle at this point in time. You can see probably about like a few 100 feet away, and the small amount of moonlight that actually is there sort of somewhat lights up the castle wall off in the distance. He looks towards you. Some people don't have a choice in that matter. Zayla's easy to displease and hard to please. Someone such as you, servant of the Lady of Mists, I would suggest you watch your tongue around her, else you just might lose that and all more.
Very well.
But that's if you're even around to even greet her. You already have to contend with one witch. Lucky you. Very well. The castle is off in the distance. I have no need to have you follow me any further. Go on, be off with you.
Very
And he
well.
like takes like his clawed hand and he like kind of like waves towards the castle, like kind of like steps to the side and like waves towards the castle, motioning you forward.
Catherine will smile and give a small bow and just say, well, thank you very much, sir. Have a lovely night, I suppose. Hope your meeting goes well. And we'll start walking off.
All right. So you make it
Definitely
back to the castle.
glancing at the shoulder occasionally, but then just continues just to run off.
You do that a couple times, and on the third time, even though he hadn't moved the previous 2 times, the third time he seems to be completely gone.
Once he gets in the castle, he's just gonna take a deep breath and sigh. Just okay. I have not changed much. Need to change that.
You see this small girl. You can't really tell if it's a young human or a halfling, really. But she walks up to you, looking up to you, a large grin on her face. Why, Lord Jester, you've only just made it back. You do know what time it is. Oh, you really must get some sleep. The lady after days like these is very hard to please. You'll have a hard day's work cut out for you.
Yes, thank you. I got caught up talking to the priest.
Oh, really? What priest? And she kind of like leans in towards you, looking expectant.
Catherine will smile and pat her on the head. I think you know who he is.
She looks a little offended and like brushes the hand away. If I knew who he was, then I would have said the name already. You do realize the fact that there's more than one priest in this city, correct?
True. Fortunately, I don't remember his name. It's like Jen.
Jin? The cleric of Saloon?
Yes.
That makes sense. For being a dragonborn, he is very much of a night owl. I guess that makes sense, though, for his goddess is the goddess of the moon.
Yeah.
Regardless, come. And she like starts like trying to like push you along. You need to get sleep.
Yes,
If you don't, then she'll have all of our heads. And the last thing I want to do is join all those ice statues.
Yeah, I agree. It's bedtime. Let's go to sleep. I have more adventures to think of. Kind of interesting she was interested in the Knoll story. Ugh, those nasty things.
The maid kind of like perks up a little bit as she's pushing you along. Knolls? What are those?
Oh, they're not. Catherine just, as they're continuing up, just tells her, like, what they are. ungodly smelling doggy creatures.
Oh, by the goddess, how horrendous! And you had to fight some of those.
Yes,
Oh, you're very lucky you even made it
yeah.
out alive from the sounds of it. Almost sounds like as if there's some strange variation of werewolf.
Yeah, honestly, that is a very good point.
Ugh, I hate werewolves. While I do follow Our Lady of Silver, and she does look somewhat favorably upon lycanthropy, werewolves are just too maddened by bloodlust for my taste. Regardless, go to sleep with you.
Okay, I'm going to bed. Thank you. I didn't catch your name.
She kind of stops herself, and she kind of somewhat waddles up to you a little bit, like taking small steps, and then she looks up to you and does like a deep curtsy. Darla's my name. Darla.
Darla. Well, you're very darling, Darla. And the name is Casron, though you may continue referring me as Jester for the lady's sake.
Oh, of course, I was planning on doing so. I don't really care what your name is. You might very well be dead tomorrow, for all I know.
Very valid point. Hopefully not. I've lived this long. Alright, good night.
You can see that. Yeah, you can see the fact that Darla has a very flippant personality.
Yep. Yep, very much so. That's fine. I go to bed.
So you go to bed. Roll me a wisdom save.
Ah, lovely. Wisdom save. 7.
You go to sleep thinking many thoughts. You have a lot of information to work with right now. Apparently, Avanos may be somehow related to Peleus, though you don't know how. Freaking. Apparently,
like these ladies.
Avanos is probably, most likely, the daughter of the Pale Lady. You might be somehow related to them, though you're not 100% sure on that fact. You just bear a somewhat striking resemblance to some of the family. And you also ran into probably your second arch nemesis in Arswick within the city.
I'm all by myself.
Yes.
I can't be a smartass.
And on top of that, you also have to still contend with Lady Yuki, who has a very interesting personality.
It's fine. It's fine. If these rolls keep up, I won't be fine. But I know what she likes.
Anyways. I had a message. Anyways, so you as you finally are able to doze off to sleep, it's probably close to like 3:30, 4 in the morning. You open your eyes to find yourself standing in Oro. You look around, and it's somewhat early morning. You feel absolutely exhausted. It looks like as if it might be just arriving sun up. The wind has that bitter sort of winter chill on it at this point in time. The sun having quite risen up enough to have some of the warmer ocean breezes really actually take full effect just yet. And you can hear the morning dock work on the piers taking place. There are some people calling out orders. You hear boxes and such things being moved around, sort of wooden sleds going up and down with large amounts of freight, with several people hauling them up and down the piers, ships being loaded and unloaded. You see all this happening, and while you're looking at it, you see the oh, just a second. Let me.
Looking at the pier, just like, and to think I wanted to work on the docks when I was little. Oh, he can't even hear me. Huh.
All right, she just got back home, so I was greeting her. All right.
That's
Anyways,
fine.
so as I was saying, you are overlooking Oro, sort of on this hill, pretty close to the border of the village, close to where Loch Oro is, the lake that borders it. You can see the shining silver of the river that is starting to turn into a sort of golden color as the sun is starting to rise from the sky. And you feel like as if, even though all of the work seems to almost be happening like slower than normal, almost like as if it's like everyone is like slowed down, the sun seems to be rising very rapidly. And within just a few minutes, it rises all the way to midday and then starts to set. And then after about like 10 minutes, it sets and the moon starts to rise. And then as the moon rises, it's rising just as quickly for a moment. And then after it hits about like what would most likely be 10 o'clock at night, it suddenly just like stops. And you see this silver light shine down from the moon into the ocean. And you see this ship. It has a couple other ships that are following behind it, but this ship gives you the most eerie feeling. You, looking upon it, even though it just looks like a normal ship, you have this strange feeling of dread. And as the ship starts to near the harbor, you start to hear this strange song in your mind. And you fight hard against it. You fight so hard, and then all of a sudden, it seems like as if the song just disappears. As you suddenly realize, as the song disappears, you stand up, not having realized you even were on the ground for a moment. And the ships just start to come closer and closer, and you feel strange. That sense of dread is gone now. And as the ships finally make their way into the harbor, it's probably about midnight at this point in time. And this beam of moonlight has followed these ships all the way from the open sea away from the harbor to the harbor itself. And you see these men start to unload, start to get off of the ship. They're not unloading cargo. They're not even loading cargo onto it. They start to just, dozens of people start to make their way off these few ships into the city. And after probably about 15 minutes, you see these people start to carry people of Oro back towards the ships. Some of them looking like as if they were beaten, some of them looking like as if they were knocked out, some even looking like as if they might have been killed as they were being dragged towards the ship. All of these people are being dragged towards this one ship, the ship that was leading the 3 ships that have pulled into the harbor. And the people are brought down into the underbelly of the ship. And a few minutes after the first person is dragged down there, you can see in the moonlight, even from this distance, almost like as if your vision has been enhanced, the look of absolute terror on this man's face as the door seems to, the darkness seems to swallow him up. And just for a moment, a couple minutes after the man disappears into the ship and other people are starting to be ferried into the underbelly of this ship, there's a strange, almost deafening silence, like as if all sound has stopped. And then you hear this scream of terror that slowly turns into a cacophony of multiple people screaming. And you hear cries for help, cries for parents, for gods and goddesses, for soldiers, for armies, for mothers and fathers, for even the king himself. And slowly these screams start to slowly die out over the course of about half an hour, and you feel rooted in place, unable to move. And then about half an hour after this starts, the screams have finally fully died out. And you see the men start to shuffle out from the underbelly of the ship back to their respective ships and start to set sail. And as they start to set sail, you hear that haunting song that slowly melds away, seeming to disappear even as the ships haven't moved just yet. And then you watch as the ships slowly leave the harbor, the sun just rising up over the horizon. And after they leave over the edge of the horizon, you feel that deafening silence again, like as if something was missing. And immediately the sun starts to hurriedly rise up into the sky, and you see within minutes it hits midday, and then minutes after it hits sundown, and the moon once again rises up. And even though before it was about a half moon, a waning half moon, you see the fact that this moon is a full moon, and the light doesn't beam down towards the harbor, it beams down towards you, right in front of you. And from the air, there are these motes of light that slowly swirl around. And as they start to touch the ground, you see feet that are slowly start to get connected to legs, and you see this dusky, unblemished skin as it starts to form a woman right in front of you, looking absolutely beautiful. Lime green eyes, long ivory-hued hair, dusky skin, perfectly proportioned. She looks absolutely gorgeous. You have never seen someone as beautiful as this woman standing in front of you. And it takes you a moment to realize that this is one of the 3 aspects of Saloon that is standing before you. And you see a look of sadness upon her face as she reaches out a hand and she kind of cups your cheek.
Unfortunately, this is all I can do for you. Heed this warning, young cleric.
And then suddenly you wake up in a cold sweat.
kind of just puts his hands in his face, trying to figure out what to do or think.
As you start to put your hands in your face, you notice out of the corner of your eye that your book, which was clearly in your backpack the night before, is out on the floor right next to your pack, opened up, like as if it had fallen open. And you see written in silver letters, "Heed my warning." And that's all.
Alright. Silver Lady, you have... Not Silver Lady. Saloon, you have my attention.
For the rest of the day, Lady Yuki actually does not call for you. In fact, she's not seen around the castle for the entire day. Is there anything that you wish to do during this point in time?
Go back to this Temple Saloon. I'm sure he's not there, but I want to at least attempt to see if, Gelm or Jen is there.
Jen? Alright.
Yeah.
So, at what point in time would you make your way there?
Probably early morning, because he's probably definitely stressed about this.
Okay. So you leave in the early morning, not really caring too much on whether or not Yuki is actually going to call you.
Yeah. She can find me. The good lady can teleport. It's fine. People are dying. This is stressful.
You make your way there, and you see the fact that Jin is still there, but he is garbed in full-on, like, heavy cleric regalia. He has, like, a half-plate armor on. He has a mace strapped to his side, a shield that has the symbol of Saloon on it, strapped to his back over his pack. He has a helmet that is strapped to the side of the pack as well. And he seems to be wearing greaves, a sort of like sash slash like almost, there's like a sash that goes across the half plate that goes into this sort of like half, what would you call it? Like sort of like, I don't know. It's sort of like a, what do you call them? I don't even remember. I had the name in my mind and now I can't remember it. I think it's called like a Sario. Let me see this real quick.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's called a Sario. This is probably going to look a little awkward, but it's the best way that
That's fine.
I'm pretty sure it's called a Sario. It might not actually be called that, but it looks somewhat like this. But everyone's going to be confused because I'm posting this in the party chat.
That's fine.
It looks somewhat like this. You see the fact that there's like leather pants and stuff like that that he has on that goes into plate greaves and a sort of like plate waist around, and you can see that over the leather pants and the plate waist, and going down over the greaves on his right side is this like blue and silver. I'm pretty sure it's called a Sario.
Okay.
And it has stars that litter down the side of where his tracing down the side of his leg, and you can see the fact that there seems to be script in Draconic that is right below the stars going all the way down the side of it as well. He looks to you, and he looks like a freaking like warrior of Saloon and all this get up.
Yeah.
And as he sees you, he gives you a smile. Ah, Casseron. To what do I owe the pleasure? As you can see, and he's like starts to like strap buckles on like one of his gauntlets. I was just about to make my way out.
Saloon came to my dream last night.
He stops for a moment and kind of like stares at the gauntlet and then continues like buckling it up, and then he puts on the other one and he starts buckling up the other one. And
Casseron will explain the dream and the warning and like everything. And even when I woke up, this was out of my bag, and at first tries to go to the book and he pauses, like, I'll leave it there, I'll just tell you what was in it. In silver letters was written, heed my warning.
perhaps it's a sort of reward for doing one of her faithful a service. You may very well have led me to the last of the bloodline of Cassandra and her sisters. If Lady Saloon told you to heed her warning, you'd best do so. There's a reason why she is known as the one who guides. It's not often that she would give prophecies or knowledge such as this, but she must have very much appreciated the information that you delivered to me. Or maybe it was something else that she saw in you. I don't know. Regardless, I can see the fact that this port town, Oro, I believe you called it, yes, seems important to you. Is there any other things that would mark what day this might have occurred at? Or be occurring at?
Was there?
Roll me a... Roll me an insight check.
Insight. I profession in that, so yay. Still doesn't help, it's a goddamn 2.
You feel like as if you remembered seeing during the night in which not during the night, during the day in which the people of the harbor had been like pulling crates and other things back and forth, and the town had been bustling. You feel like you remembered seeing just barely what looked like might have been preparations for a festival, but it's been a long while since you really went back to Oro, and due to being in the temple for most of your life, there wasn't really much for you to go out and enjoy as an orphan. You remember it looked like as if there was preparations for festivities, but for what festivities you don't quite know. You do somewhat remember the looks of the decorations. The decorations themselves seem to have oh my gosh. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting the goddamn thing. Okay. You remember seeing through like this weird enhanced vision that you have, the fact that some of the symbols on the decorations were a circle of 7 stars that were encircling a flowing red mist. Roll me a religion check for that.
Religion. It's 11.
You know that the fact that that is the holy symbol of Mystra, the Lady of Mysteries and the Mother of all magic.
Mm-hmm.
There's several different festivals for gods and goddesses. There's a couple that Mistra is involved in as well. Festivals that have to do with magic and knowledge and things like that generally have the symbols of Mistra. But then the most famous one that you remember is, of course, the one in which celebrates and mourns the death of Mistra before the birth of the new goddess Mistra. The death of Mistral and the rebirth into the goddess of Mistra.
Mm-hmm. What days on that?
You don't quite know which festival this would have been for, because these several festivals happen in different parts of the year. The closest one would be a small festival that happens that is sort of a celebration of knowledge and things like that. It's generally a time in which children who have come of age might go to temples in order to start schooling and things like that. It's a celebration of a new generation coming into being.
Mm-hmm.
This would happen right now. It's Tarsak. It's the month of Tarsak. That happens in the next month of Mirtul in about 2 weeks. The festival after that would be the one that celebrates and mourns the death of Mistra, which not Mistra, Mistral, which is several months out from now, in the month of Elasius. And then the last one is less of a, like, I guess you could. It's less of a festival and more of a kind of competition sort of thing, and that happens in Marpenoth
And what was
at the Academy of Aryan Road.
Marpenoth. Gotta find Marpenoth. And what was the second one?
The second one is in the month of Elasius.
Elasius.
I am completely pronouncing that wrong, but every single time I look at it, I want to pronounce it that way.
Wait.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be pronounced
yeah, that's right.
Eliasis.
And it's just like sometime in that month. I don't know the exact day. Same thing with the Marpenoth.
The Marpenoth one, no. The Eliasis one is a pretty important festival. You would know the fact that oops. Why is it not letting me? There we go. Oops, here. Let me add it to the calendar.
Ah, thank you.
There we go. Okay, you would know the fact that this festival happens on the 20th day of Eliasis.
Okay.
The one that happens in Myrtle, I believe is the one I said it was.
Yeah, in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it happens somewhere around in 2 weeks. You're not 100% sure, but it's sometime within the first or second week of Myrtle. It's definitely before the third week. That's all you can really remember of that.
Yeah.
It's more of a sort of local festival, not one that's really widely celebrated. There might be nearby places, like perhaps The Darkwood Village might celebrate it, and they might celebrate it in Antica slightly.
Yeah.
But it's not a big festival. It's definitely not celebrated in Avengarde.
Mhm. It's the symbol on one of the banners was of Mistra. It seemed like they were getting ready for a festival, but that could be 3 of them. One of those is in 2 weeks. I'm all the way up in the north.
Is there any other information? Perhaps merchants that were coming in, ships. Were there? Oh, I know. Were there any processions? If this was supposed to be preparations for a festival, then they'd probably have, say, clerics or priests at least, possibly monks, things like that, that would be probably going around helping do the celebrations if it was for one of the more holy rituals.
I don't remember seeing them, did I?
Roll me another insight check.
Heck, I rolled it the wrong way. Okay. Throw it in the box.
You don't remember seeing. You know for a fact that there were no ships that were coming in. You remember in the dream that the harbor was, for the most part, almost completely empty, except for the few ships that were being loaded or unloaded. There were no ships that were coming in off the ocean. You do remember seeing some older men in like robes and stuff like that seemed to be sort of like talking to with the enhanced vision just out of the corner of your eyes amongst the people that were bustling. There does seem to have been some older men that seem to have been talking to like groups of men and women. Some of them seem to have been like holding children, stuff like that. You can possibly assume that they might have been children. But other than that, nothing else really comes to mind.
There were no ships coming in. There was only a few that were there. There were some priests, but they seemed to be holding children. Nothing else really comes to mind.
And you said one of the festivals was a celebration of children coming of age?
Yes, it might be that one.
It's most likely that one. If it was the festival of the lost goddess, then there would have been pilgrims coming in off of ships, most likely, to make their way to... Anyways.
Which one was the one of the children? I think that's the one in 2 weeks, right?
That is the one in 2 weeks.
Fuck.
As you say that, you do see the fact that Jin does look a little concerned. Do you wish to convene with the goddess? I could possibly do a ceremony, maybe ask for further clarification.
If that's possible, I would highly appreciate that. Aura's my home.
Very well, it's the least that I could do for you. Come. Sit on one of the pews, relax your mind for a moment. I need to gather some of the materials from the other parts of the cathedral. You see the fact that he goes to the far left and disappears through an archway, and you see the fact that he appears, I didn't actually say it before, but there's actually like a second floor, like almost like a balcony that kind of goes around on both sides of this cathedral, overlooking the pews and the main like alley where this carpet of saloon goes all the way up to the podium. That's the word I was looking for. Fucking podium. Anyways, not the point. Anyways, he seems like as if he's like kind of rummaging around in this small closet that you can kind of barely see, and he pulls out what looks like a pretty decently sized chest. He's kind of like hefting it along with him, and he brings it back downstairs. And once he gets all the way downstairs, he goes directly under the stained glass domed roof up above, which still has that sort of like almost like moonlight light coming through due to the stained glass. And he starts to prepare things around. He actually touches the carpet, and he says a word in Draconic. And you see the fact that the carpet itself seems to kind of like fade away, almost like as if like that part of it was an illusion. And you realize the fact that the carpet isn't actually one entire carpet, but it's actually two separate ones. And in the middle is this enormous sort of like slightly indented like basin where you can see the symbol of saloon encompassing around here. That entire section of the floor was actually an illusion. And the light completely encompasses this part of this slightly like divoted part of the ground. And he starts to lay out incense and candles. You see the fact that he puts moonstones and sapphires in certain little parts. Following along with the moonstones for each of the 7 stars and the sapphires for the eyes. You see the fact that he takes this strange, like kind of like silvery white dust, and he puts it in a circle around the 7 stars in the eyes, and it kind of like creates this picturesque scene, like as if it's the symbol of saloon on a moon. The candles themselves are all around in alternating colors of silver and blue. As he lays all of this stuff out, he finally lights the incense, and it's this strange, like, not like overbearingly sweet scent. It's sort of like a muted, almost like honeysuckle kind of scent. It's not like overly bearing, but it has like that kind of like nice, sweet, almost calming scent to it.
Yes, I love that.
And as he burns this incense, he sits down right on the edge of the kind of silvery white powder. And he motions for you to sit on the other side of the circle of silver powder that he made. Sit there. Make sure that you sit in the exact pose that I'm in. Don't say anything. Just channel your divine energy into the circle. Though you may be of another god, that matters little with this ceremony.
Okay.
As you do this, you feel a calming sensation kind of like come over you. There's this like cool feeling, like as if there's this cool wind that kind of like is gently caressing you as this ceremony, this ritual starts to be commenced. You see the fact that he sits down and he closes his eyes and he sits in this strange posture, and he starts to mumble something in Draconic. And as he's talking, you see the fact that the silvery white powder, starting from you directly in front of you and directly in front of him, starts to slowly glow, and this glow spreads around until it fully encompasses all of this strange dust, making a silver ring. And the light seems to leak inwards towards the moonstones and the sapphires. And as it encompasses the moonstones and the sapphires, you see the moonstones start to glow with this inner radiance, and the sapphires let out this dazzling dark blue light before the light fully encompasses the entirety of the inner part of this circle, letting off this silver light almost exactly like a moon. the candles themselves start to actually alter, depending on which candle it is. The blue candles have this strange kind of like silvery blue color, while the silver candles have an almost pure white flame. It's a very surreal experience. The incense seems to become stronger and stronger as this ritual seems to be picking up more and more. This sort of what was originally a cool and calm, like caressing breeze starts to strengthen. And as this ceremony starts to arrive to its high point, its peak, you hear what almost sounds like a shattering sound. And the light that was filtering through suddenly goes completely dark. And then suddenly what looks like a beam of moonlight starts to come down from the stained dome above you, hitting the ground, enveloping the entire ceremonial area. And you see Jin open his eyes, and you see those same kind of like enticing, almost somewhat kind of like almost flirtatious looking green eyes, the same eyes that you saw on the goddess Saloon, as he seems to be staring at nothing for a moment, and then the eyes like flicker towards you.
It seems, young cleric, that you call for my aid through the use of one of my own servants. Tell me, what is it you ask for?
The warning you gave me last night. When is that going to happen? Is that going to be in the next 2 weeks? Who is after the people of Oro?
You almost feel the chuckle rather than it actually happening. Jin actually has like a straight, like flat face with no emotion, but you feel the chuckle coming from what you can only assume is the goddess possessing his body for the moment.
My apologies. It seems like as if my aid was a little too early. Don't worry, you have much time before this disaster befalls Oro. You know of when it will occur. Trust me in this. You may not follow me, but even those who do not follow my light are guided by it. Fear not. You have much time to prepare. Gather your strength, though. The difficulties of dealing with that disastrous being is too much for you to handle at this point. You or your companions.
Catherine will
Unfortunately,
take a deep breath and nod.
Unfortunately, due to my forbiddance of this land for too long, it's become more difficult to exert my presence here. The ceremony usually lasts longer, but I do not wish to stress Jin, such a devout man, too much. Know that I will always be watching, young cleric. Even if you do not follow me, I still guide all who are beneath my sky.
And you see the green light slowly fade until you see the, I don't think I ever said it, but you see like these sapphire blue eyes from Jin start to slowly like reemerge from the green. And as the green fully disappears from his eyes, and you see that it is completely and totally him once more, his sort of posture that he was holding for the ceremony suddenly collapses, and he like kind of falls half onto the ground, and it almost like half laying down state, and he looks exhausted. I'm sorry, give me a moment.
No, it's fine.
It's
Thank you.
difficult to exert the goddess's presence in these lands now.
That's what she said.
I'm assuming that due to your thanks you found the answers that you desired.
She said it won't be soon, and that I'll know when it happens. I don't need to worry right now, but heed her warning.
She's a protector and a guide, as I've said before. This may very well be a way of her guiding you onto some sort of path. What that path may be, I don't know. But even if she puts you through trials, know that it'll make you a stronger person. He slowly sits back up, seeming to have recaught his breath, and his stamina somewhat rejuvenated after that. Though you see the fact that he still seems a little almost weak. His hands seem to shake slightly. And the goddess said to heed her warning. I would do that, but if she says that you're not ready, then for now, just keep it in the back of your mind and your subconscious and focus on other things. Things that you can do for now. Gather your strength. Strengthen your faith. Find other allies if you need to. Prepare yourself.
Very well. And I'm probably gonna get bit for this, but there's a town in the Cloudspire Mountains. She lives in she lives close to that. You can't miss it. The town is full of tieflings and Asmars, I've been told.
He gives you another smile before he bows. Thank you for everything.
Look for
I have a long
the
journey.
God Hunters. I think that's what they called themselves.
Not a name that sounds familiar to me, but I've not really investigated into organizations of any sort. I probably should have, knowing her mother, but regardless.
That's the book. I don't read the book. Looking through my notes.
As I said, thank you for everything. And while I did enjoy our conversations in your company, I do have a long journey ahead of me.
Castle
And best
nod.
set up.
Yes, be safe. I have to go back to the castle again and not get lost this time.
He gives you another bow, and before he has an almost radiant smile across his face. May the Moon Maiden guide your path. And then he walks out of the cathedral.
Casron will follow him out and say, what? I'm from Avengarde. If you ever need help or need something, let us know. And he'll wave again and start heading towards the castle.
Jin doesn't say anything in response, but he does give you a nod with a smile. All right.
Back to the castle.
With that, the maids seem a little flustered, slightly annoyed. Darla seems more annoyed than the rest of them, looking a little pale, like as if she was terrified.
Hello, darling Darla. She doesn't
Lord
miss me,
Jester,
does
if you
she?
only stay in the castle, you already know how Lady Yuki goes. I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to leave. Anyways, regardless, she hasn't called for you yet. I would suggest you go wait in your room in case she does.
alright. Can't go for a morning stroll, I see. Giving a
Look.
smile, and he'll start heading towards his castle. Not castle, his room.
It's already in the afternoon at this point in time. We'll bring you lunch. Just be good. Last thing we need is other maids getting frozen due to your own stupidity. Okay?
True. Alright. In my room I'll go. I'll read myself out of boredom.
Thank the goddess. Alright. So you are brought lunch, later, probably about, like, an hour later. For the rest of the day, you are not called. In fact, no one inside the castle sees the lady. You do hear a sort of commotion going on, and I imagine being purely bored, you probably go to investigate it, correct?
Oh, of course I do. Literally just
Okay.
look out, see if I see Darla, and then sneak away.
You do see Darla. She seems to be talking to Arswick. And Arswick seems slightly annoyed, seeming to ask about why in the world he can't see the lady and the fact that he really needs to see Lady Yukiko. And that it is of the utmost importance, and he'd already made a set appointment. And he does not like being jilted.
Castron just peers from the balconies, staying somewhat hidden in the shadows, just watching.
You just see Darla, like, kind of, like, apologetically give him a curtsy, and he's just like, I'm sorry, Lord Oswick, but unfortunately, if the lady is nowhere to be found, then we can't exactly just make her appear out of nowhere. Do you wish us to die? Now, go on, you can probably meet her tomorrow or the day after. I imagine that she'll probably remember you at some point in time, at least, hopefully, and then call for you. Just, you're asking for Our Lady's time. Not your own. Leave. You see the fact that you are close enough to where you can see the fact that Arswick is obviously like tenses for a moment, and you can see the clawed gauntlet sort of like grip, and you see this sort of sickly looking like greenish fire start to like envelop his fist for a moment before he finally unclenches it. And you see him kind of scoff and walk away without a word.
As I like see him like definitely further and further away, he'll like kind of lean over the balcony and just smile and just like, darling Darla, I'm bored. When's the lady gonna call for me?
You see a death glare come from her.
Catherine just smiles.
If you wish me to, I can go and see if I can't find her and ask her to turn you into another one of those pretty little statues.
Oh, come now. I'm trying to lighten the mood. I know she's not here.
She ignores you and leaves.
Have fun.
For the rest of the day and into the night, nothing really happens. You finally just lay down to go to sleep, but you're awoken by something in the midst of your sleep. Judging by the trajectory of the moon, you can probably say that it's late night, possibly early morning. It looks like as if it's anywhere between like 11:30 to maybe close to 1. It's a little hard to tell. But you wake up looking around, seeing the moon from the window. And you don't know really what it is for a moment that woke you up. And then you think you hear something. Roll me a perception check to see if you can perceive it just a little better.
20, not natural.
You hear something for a moment, and it kind of like confuses you, because it's not strange to hear things in the castle. I mean, there are the servants do work in shifts in order to complete some of the cleaning, so it's not strange to hear people moving about, even in the wee hours of the night. But This seems to be coming from outside the castle, somewhere in the garden. And as you walk out on the balcony, in order to get a kind of better listen on the noise, you open the balcony doors to hear sobbing. And it's very quiet, and you kind of weirded out by the fact that it's barely perceivable with the doors closed, nonetheless open. And so you're unsure about how this would have woken you up. But as you look in the direction of the crying, you see Lady Yuki. And this sort of this kimono that seems to be like kind of changing as she's walking. You see the fact that her features are constantly morphing, like partially getting frozen, unfreezing, the ice crackling to pieces, the claws are lengthening and then de-lengthening. And you see that as this is all happening, her clothing starts to slowly morph and her form seems to change as this is all happening. And before you know it, suddenly there is what looks like a queen's regalia and a young woman with a smile on her face. And you can see what looks almost like an echo of Yuki following behind, just barely perceivable in the moonlight. And it looks like as if she's trying to tear away from this woman. Looking at this woman, you can see the fact that it is in fact Yuki. It is Yuki. She's not wearing the kimono that you always see her wear, or at least some version of it. It is very obviously regalia of royal regalia of this continent. She looks like as if she's a queen. As she walks, she's like walking towards what looks like the gardens, and as she walks, you can see the fact that this sort of like barely perceivable echo of the Yuki you know, kind of like trying to like what almost looks like silently scream and like yank away from this strange, almost like doppelganger of her, sees you and looks like as if she kind of reaches out for you before her and the seeming doppelganger of her disappear from sight and what almost looks like a ripple of the very air.
I'm going to... I probably don't see anything, but I'm gonna at least try and, like, leave my room and go towards the garden.
Alright, it takes a little bit of time. Some of the servants and stuff like that, a couple like butlers and maids, the few who do work during the night kind of see you as they're like carrying like clothes and like dusting stuff and things like that back and forth. They give you some kind of weird looks, but they don't really say anything. Even though you've only been here a couple days, Yuki's dragged you around this castle all over the place. They do recognize you.
Yeah.
You, after probably about 30 minutes, make your way to the garden and the general area in which you saw Yuki disappear.
Lady Yuki. Trying to, like, look around. Hello. I know I saw you.
You don't hear anything in response except for a slight giggle. And then a woman saying this.
Oh, Eric, dear. I do know the fact that you enjoy your little jokes, but don't you think we should be getting to the party?
This voice, which is obviously Yuki's, seems to kind of like echo around you. And every single time that a word is spoken, you see this area that leads, that is kind of like this archway of green hedges. This archway of green hedges that leads into like sort of like the inner area of the garden. The archway seems to somewhat like ripple for some reason.
I go towards it.
As you go towards it, you feel this strange sensation, like as if heat is brushing across your face. And as you step through the archway, you hear this strange cacophony of voices. You hear a man and a woman that seem to be having a bit of a conversation. There's some screaming that happens. Voices calling out. You hear Yuki screaming out for Eric, and then this man screaming out for Yuki, telling her to run. And as he's saying that, you hear what almost sounds like a blade piercing flesh in a groan of pain before you hear Yuki once more screaming out for Eric. And then there's a kind of like mad cackling laughter, and a bunch of voices kind of like overwhelm you for a moment before you just hear Yuki's voice, the voice in which you recognize as a voice that you do not want to hear if you can help it.
I will never forgive you.
And you lose conscious.
Hmm.
We'll end the session there.
Aww. I'm having fun, but okay.
Yeah. I had you roll that percentile dice at the very beginning for evens or odds to figure out which one you would encounter first. Her wandering off into some sort of weird portal thingy, or the church. And the church was the one that you got first, so.
Aww. Hmm.
The Grand Cathedral of Saloon.
The Grand Cathedral Saloon. And yeah. This was fun.
Yeah.
I like this. This is fun.
Alright. Yeah. Fun times. Better